How does one start off a story like this? That I asked myself and I still don't know. So let me tell you about what happened. I was just walking home from school one day. It was a pretty bad day, I'm not gonna lie. I had lots of homework and a detention to serve. You could say I'm not the brightest of the bunch. Anyway, I walked home with my friend Jessica. We were talking about other people and making fun of the ones we don't like. There were so many to choose from for me. I dislike people very easily. I remember we had just had a good conversation about who we hate the most, and we sadly had to part ways. She walked to her house and I walked alone from there. Not to judge or anything, her house looked like it was abandoned. I wouldn't want to live there myself. As she closed the door, I waved bye. That is when I first heard it, rustling in the woods behind me. At the time, I ignored it. Keep in mind that I live in a densely wooded area and there's a whole bunch of wildlife. I didn't even have a second thought about what it was. That was my mistake, I realize now. My next stop was my house. I live about a 20-minute walk away from Jessica. I remember I had walked 10 minutes into my walk, and to get to my house, you have to walk a path in the woods. My house is pretty far in the woods compared to other houses. You know, it was like any other day, and when you're by yourself, don't judge me, you tend to sing, and that's what I did. I sung the song In the Big Rock Candy Mountains. My grandma played it for me when I was a kid. It was a comfort song for me. As I sang, I looked around and I wasn't paying attention. As I was walking, something hit my head and I closed my eyes as I winced in pain. I knew it was rather small and I opened my eyes to see a walkie-talkie dangling on a weird kind of rope. Now that I think of it, it was more of a wire of sorts. I looked at it for a moment and I really didn't know what to do at first. A walkie-talkie dangling on a wire in the woods? How weird. It was almost like it was put there purposely. I just grabbed it. I don't know why. It looked like a regular walkie-talkie at the time. I pressed the button on it and nothing. Nothing but static. I put it up to my ear. I still heard static. Naturally, I thought it was a piece of junk that didn't work. I threw it behind my head and it landed. I walked a few feet away from it. Hello? A voice came from it. It was a man's voice, and kind of quirky sounding. Almost like a young man, but had such a childish tone to it. He said hello a few times and I quickly grabbed the talkie from the ground. I replied with a hello of myself. It was quiet for a few seconds and I could hear raspy breathing. Oh, hello there. Nice to hear a voice on the radio. The voice belled out happily. I replied with, Oh, thank you. Your voice isn't too shabby as well. Well, I'd like to say I stole it from someone, but you know, I was born with it. Anyway, how'd you get this walkie-talkie, dude? At the time, I thought it was just random banter. Now I realized he was gaining information on me. We talked back and forth for a while. Honestly, I kind of liked talking to him. He had quite a friendly manner. I remember just talking to him all the way home. He wasn't too pushy or mean, and it was just like talking to one of my regular friends. The whole time he was eating something though, and I could hear loud crunches while he was talking. I asked him what it was he was eating, and he said it wasn't anything important. What a weird answer. Now that I think of it, we stopped talking when I got to my house. I told him bye and he just went quiet and didn't reply. Static it went back to. I put the walkie-talkie in my backpack. The day went on as usual. I got yelled at by my parents for getting a detention. They took my phone as usual, but I still had the walkie-talkie in my backpack. I was sent to my room to do all the homework that I had to do. That's what I did for the rest of my day. Homework. At least I had my dog, Buddy, my golden retriever pal. He is such a nice dog. I mean, really nice. You know that dumb old saying, couldn't hurt a fly. That was not him, as he eats flies. It was something close to that, though. Time had gone by, and Buddy had fallen asleep on my bed. It was about midnight, and my parents had gone to sleep. I laid against Buddy like a pillow. It was quite snuggly. I then grabbed my backpack by my feet and pulled out the walkie-talkie. I pressed a button and said hello. It went from static to raspy breathing, and then the guy said, "What up?" We talked for about an hour, I would say, and then I felt vibrations on my head. It was growling, not from the walkie-talkie, but from Buddy. He was looking at the walkie-talkie and growling. "Huh? You have a dog?" "Yeah, his name's Buddy." How weird. Buddy never growls at anything, and yet he was growling at a walkie-talkie. I now know he was growling at the guy talking in the walkie-talkie. Man, I was stupid. Whoa, somebody's not happy. I think you should put him outside or something. Actually, I've never seen him. I was cut off by Buddy. The growl was intensifying very loudly until bark. Buddy just went crazy with barking, and I tried to calm him down, but it was too late. He woke my parents up, and he had to go outside in his doghouse. That's what the thing wanted, I know now. Even when Buddy was put out there, he was still barking like crazy. Buddy wasn't barking at my walkie-talkie this time, but at the woods. He was straining his neck on a chain he was being held on because he wanted to chase something in the forest. I remember closing my blinds, and I could still hear his loud barking right now. I went back to my walkie-talkie and said sorry for my dog being rude. I heard raspy breathing and then static. I remember thinking how that was really rude of him. Just to stop talking to me like that because of Buddy's barking. It was like he had something more important to do now. That's why he stopped talking, is what I thought then. I went to sleep covering my ear with a pillow to drown out the barking. I had such a scary dream that night. I dreamt of Buddy, but I was him. I could see through his eyes, and I was in his doghouse. I walked out of it, and I could see through my window. I could see me just standing there for some reason. I was staring at Buddy, and I could have sworn I was smiling. It was such an evil smile. One that would put chills down your spine. I then saw me look towards the right, and naturally I looked over there. I instantly regretted it. I saw two red eyes in the darkness of the woods, and they were staring right at me. I then retreated into Buddy's doghouse. I remember quivering in the darkness. I could hear whatever it was that was in the woods getting closer. There were loud footsteps, actually more like hooves. Thump, thump. It got louder and louder until it stopped. I could hear eerie, raspy breathing, and then I saw a giant claw gasp the edge of the doghouse. Then I woke up in a cold sweat in my bed. I grabbed my chest and squeezed my shirt. I didn't wake up because of the dream, but because I heard Buddy cry out. It sounded like he was in pain, and I quickly tried to open my blinds. I opened them and looked out and saw nothing. Buddy wasn't there anymore, and there was just his chain that was pulled out fully extended. There was no collar attached, nothing. I just heard him yelp, and now he was gone. I woke up my parents and told them that he was gone. They went outside and looked for him in their car. I was left alone in the house, and I was so scared. Not for me, But for Buddy, whatever I dreamt, I think came true. I went in my room and I shook. The walkie-talkie. That stupid walkie-talkie went off, and I could hear Buddy whimpering. I could also hear the same raspy breathing from my dream. "Look out your window," the guy from the walkie-talkie said. I ran to my window, and what I saw will haunt me forever. I haven't been talking to someone. I've been talking to a monster. It had deer antlers, and it was huge. About 9 feet, I'd say, covered in black fur, and it was human in shape. That was as human as it got, as its face was a deer's skull. Its sockets were not empty, as it had blood-red glowing eyes, and they were staring right at me. It stood on hooves. Urine ran down my leg onto the floor. Right next to it was Buddy's mangled corpse. It was gory. I don't want to think about it. He had large bites taken out of him. Half his skull was gone, and I could see his brains. That monster that did that to him was staring at me now. Blood dripping from its teeth and a serpent tongue coming out to clean up. It slowly raised one of its arms and started waving at me. I just stared in complete shock and terror. Its other arm slowly rose up to its mouth, and in its claws was the walkie-talkie. "It's rude not to wave back, you know," it said in the guy's voice. I looked at it, and now that I think of it, its jaw didn't even move to talk. I slowly rose the walkie-talkie to my mouth, and tears rolled down my cheeks. "Why?" I blurted out in an emotional mess. It started laughing, not only in the guy's voice, but many others. An old woman's, a young boy, an old man's, and in Jessica's voice. It didn't even move as it laughed. It just stared right at me. "You know, I've been watching you for some time now, and guess what? I've actually come to like you. But at first, I'm going to be honest with you, I was going to eat you. Instead, I ate your dog. I'm not much of a dog person. Actually, I'm not even a person. But he sure went down crying. You know, Jessica has been dead for a week now, and I've been walking with you instead, learning where you live and such. Then you found my walkie-talkie, and now we're here. You look very tender and appetizing up there. I could just see you up. But instead, I'm going to give you a choice. I'm going to kill someone within the next hour, but if you give me one of your fingers, I'll just leave you alone, for now." I remember everything fading to dark then, and my legs had gone weak. I couldn't keep them from holding my weight, and then I passed out. I woke up outside, and there were cop cars everywhere. They put me in the ambulance, and they filled me with so much painkillers that I didn't notice. I remember looking up as I was being put in the ambulance. The creature was in my room, and I saw the creature with an arm of a human in its hand. It was making it wave goodbye. It was my hand. I screamed in agony despite the drugs. They had to sedate me even more. I remembered them closing the door as they pumped more drugs in me. It was about to take a bite of it, and then I passed out. I woke up in the hospital, looking to my right, no arm, just bandages. I had been out for weeks. The nurse said I'd been in a coma. My parents weren't there. She said they had gone missing. There was a search party. Nothing. Not a trace yet. I asked her how the cops got called to go to my house that night. She said that I had called them and said please send help. That thing must have copied my voice and for some reason called the cops. I realized it was to torture me. If you ever find a walkie-talkie in the woods, Please, don't pick it up.